Hi there. I'm Linda Schiller Hanna, and I'm in your space right now because you've opened your mind a little bit, at least for a minute, to let me in and through the window of your TV or video or phone. Some way I've gotten into your space. Thank you for that gift. I appreciate it. Today's topic is brain dirt. I'm going to dig deep into the concept of where we get our ideas and how we form our beliefs and what they do to our lives, whether it's always good or not. Now, you need to know that even though I'm doing a daily talk for a whole year, and this is segment 55 in Inner Kid Keto, I have no script for tomorrow or the day after. Every single day I wake up asking Spirit to give me a topic, to give me a lead, to give me an idea. And it started early today. A friend of mine called me and she said that she had been raised Catholic, and she said that she had been taught the concept of original sin. And now that she's in her 70s, she's beginning to think maybe it wasn't such a good idea to believe in original sin. Maybe it wasn't so positive for her to have this belief system in the baseline of her subconscious, of her self-esteem, of her growing into adulthood, into spiritual maturity. And she asked, did you believe in original sin? And I said, well, only my dad was Catholic, and he didn't push it because they were an interfaith marriage, and back in the 50s, that was really frowned on. So I didn't get what I call brain dirted with too much stuff of original sin. I did get other ideas. I got lots of ideas that girls were dumb. Girls should only become a teacher, a nurse, or a secretary. I remember I was a senior in high school in 1966 when one of the professors said, there is evidence that women are as intelligent as men. And I went, oh, really? I was shocked that some male authority figure actually said something as radical as that women could be as intelligent as men. That was revolutionary to me. Now I know that's pretty obvious to most people. We've had women astronauts, women surgeons, women in political office throughout the world. There are lots of intelligent women, and I think most of you watching would agree. But today I wanted to take a little step back and give you an opportunity to rethink, was I brain dirted and how? Other times I've had you check off a little list. Maybe you'd want to do that again today. This may be just fun or it may be infuriating, but in this time of transformation in our world, with the coming on board of AI, artificial intelligence, driving our cars, flying our planes, all the different things, who's smarter than we are? Who's making choices for us? It may be something worth thinking about. And since my topic is always going back to choices we made about our food, because this is Inner Kid Keto, about the inner child and the beliefs we have about food and its value and its meaning in our lives, I wanted to start for a minute with little Linda. And here is little Linda. If you're new with me, this is my inner child represented as this little doll. And I started her out with this giant lollipop. You might have seen this in one of our other programs. We actually had her on before. But when I was a little girl, a lollipop was considered a really cool, special, joyful, amazing thing. Like little Linda would have been jumping up and down somebody gave her such a lollipop. Little Linda today, who's now much more in charge of my food choices, she says, you know what? Not good for you, Linda. You're neurodivergent. You have ADD. Your body responds negatively to sugar. You come from a long line of intergenerational alcoholics who have a negative response to sugar and alcohol and do not do well with that. Back in 1948, when I was born, that was not known. You understand? It was not a common knowledge. It's still not common knowledge, but it's becoming more common. So I'm starting right off with the concept of maybe sugar, even if it's pretty like this, is not good for us. So you might say, if one of my values is sugar is fun, exciting, and wonderful, maybe you're going to put that in absolutely yes, absolutely not, or maybe. You might make a list. Yes, no, or maybe. Worth learning more about. I'll leave that up to you. All of this is going to be left up to you. Now, I've heard of the concept of being brainwashed. As the years went by, and especially after I studied hypnosis, I understand that we can also be brain dirted. That negative things can be put into our mind. That horrible self-beliefs can be put into us, and we can buy them. I want to remind you that when I took the hypnosis class, they said from the age of 0 to 5, children are in constant hypnosis. Everything they hear, you're dumb, daddy doesn't like you, whatever, goes in tabula rasa like hypnosis. That's how we learn language, culture, all the things that babies and children need to learn quickly. We are in a state of alpha, and alpha is a state of hypnosis, 0 to 5. That's why children learn languages quickly. Many times when foreigners move to our country, the children pick up the language far ahead of the parents because their brains are little sponges and open. So today's opportunity is to go back and rethink, what did I automatically believe, and is it still true? Some of the thoughts came to us through media, some through church, some through school, some through family heritage, some through prejudice, through brain dirting from movies. Like, I still can't watch horror movies. They terrify me. I have no stamina for that, and other people thrive on it. That would be an example of brain dirting in my life. But we all have different capacity for letting things in. So today is just going to be kind of a fun, in a sense, re-exploration of, what do I believe? How long have I believed it? Have I ever questioned it? And maybe is it time to question it? One thing a lot of us believe, or have been taught to believe, is that diamonds are a girl's best friend. Now, this isn't a real diamond, but what if it were? This is basically cut glass, but it's very beautiful. And if this were a 90 million carat diamond, this would be priceless. And many people would salivate. Remember Liz Taylor and the diamond she got from Richard Burton on her 5th marriage or whatever? It was the talk of the nation, that diamond. I've been to the Smithsonian and seen the Hope diamond, this beautiful blue diamond that's absolutely exquisite. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. Marilyn Monroe said that, sang that song. So, do you really need a diamond, or do you really need the love? I'm going to be performing a wedding this Friday. It's a young couple, don't have a lot of money, I happen to know. He makes $15 an hour. She's a stay-at-home mom. You think he got her a $10,000 diamond? Probably not. But he's showing up with love to marry her and give her a good life. So diamonds are not always the only thing of value. So I'm going to set that aside. They're pretty. They have intrinsic worth. They're the hardest stone on the planet, a 10 on the hardness scale. But maybe not the only thing important in life. If some woman out there is watching this show and thinking, I won't marry a man who can't give me a 3-carat diamond, you might want to rethink that. I'll just leave it there. You just might want to rethink that, because if that's all you're looking for, you may end up with a rich guy with no heart, who works 800 hours a month and never sees you because he bought you the diamond. Well, you should be happy I gave you a diamond. Okay, so I made this ridiculous looking skull today. I had this little styrofoam thing, and to me, this is a perfect example of being brain dirted. And I'm going to show you some details on it. This is a pressure valve. How many of us have been overwhelmed with pressure? Now, I had a friend teach me this concept. He says there's 3 ways to work. You can work until a certain amount of time, or you can work until something's done, or you can drive yourself crazy and say, I have to get this done by this time. You put a lot more pressure on yourself if you say, I have to get this much done by this time. But if you just work till it's done, or you just work till 5 o'clock, whatever, the pressure recedes dramatically. If this isn't your professional job where you certainly have to live by a time clock and pressure, and it's just something you're doing for yourself, maybe lighten up. Maybe you clean the garage till it's done, or I get it done by next week, not this week, whatever. So being aware that pressuring yourself between so much done and so much time could be a high value. Maybe that's a value you'd reconsider, particularly in certain things. I've got international orange ribbon. That's a sign of danger. It also shows up in the dark. I keep international orange cones in the back of my cars in case I ever come across an accident in the road in the night, or something happens to my car and I have a flat in the dark. I want it there for safety reasons, or I even want it there to help somebody else. So a universal signal is this international orange, and we ask our highway workers to wear it, and it's a wonderful color. So sometimes we're just trained to be aware that a certain color has a certain meaning. And that's okay. That's okay. Okay, my nose is itching. Here it goes. Okay, got an itchy nose. Okay, now I've got this ivy thing on here. Let's go back to Adam and Eve. Oh my goodness. Some people literally believe there was an Adam and an Eve and an apple and a tree and a snake. Others say that's an allegory of how the world started. If you believe the literal thing of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, you might want to do some research about science and find out about the Olduvai Gorge in Africa and how they found the bones of prehistoric man going through transformation, that we are, I think, 90% DNA identical to the great apes. The tiniest amount of chromosome or something is different between us and the great apes. We have a lot to learn. Accept what you want, but maybe it's time to rethink some of those things. I call it being brain dirted. See this black and brown spot? That's brain dirt. That's lies. There's still millions of, well, not millions, but a lot of people who are still talking about the Flat Earth Society, despite seeing from space the round Earth from the moon. Some people think we never went to the moon. I remember when it happened. I was about 20, and it was an amazing thing, and I truly believe it's real. You may not, but a lot of us do. And just because everybody believes it doesn't mean it's true, but a lot of us do. Okay, I've got this little green thing here. It's a candy coin. And this is about the idea that money is the answer to everything. Some people think money is the root of all evil. Others think the lack of money is the root of all evil. Money has its value. It's an energy of exchange, obviously. I'm not going to go deep into that, but notice if all you ever think about is money, you've probably got your priorities a little askew. If every relationship you have is transactional, you give me this and I give you that. I take you to lunch, you take me to lunch. And it's always about equal giving. And if you can't give me a $50 lunch when I can give you one, then you're not a good enough person to be my friend. You have to be able to give me a $50 lunch because that's what I gave you. That kind of stuff is stinking thinking in my view. Those who have more might be encouraged to give more. Be grateful for your blessings. Now I've got this little ribbon here. It's Anna. It's a fairy tale princess thing from a Disney movie. A lot of us, especially us girls that grew up in the 50s and 60s, thought that we were waiting, someday my prince will come. Well, not every man's a prince, and not everybody ended up with one. And there's more women than men, and a lot of men died in the war. And if a little girl never got invited to the altar, she may think she's not worth much because She didn't get her chance to go to the ball and wear her glass slippers. That's a sad thing to put on yourself. I actually wrote a song once in my 20s between husband 1 and 2. No man ain't gonna rescue me. I ain't a damsel in distress. No man ain't gonna rescue me. I ain't wearing a wedding dress. Well, I did end up with a wedding dress and I did get rescued. But we rescued each other. It was not transactional. It was giving love to one another. And that's what you really want. And when you're getting married, I want you to have values in common, not just interests. He can go fishing and you can play golf. You don't have to have all your interests in common. It's good to have a few, but it doesn't have to line up. Oh my God, you'll be so bored. Okay, now I've got some feathers up here. Some people are called bird brains. Not too smart, but she's got big, Bird feathers are beautiful. Feathers keep it light. People bring their humor. They bring their charm. Feathers are fantastic. I love feathers. They remind me of angels. But I don't want somebody being called a bird brain and put down. Okay? I've got up here, take this off because it's in the way, a fork. Those of us with food issues may think, food is the only thing important. I gotta have my fork. I'm constantly looking for food. Food, 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 food. When I traveled in Europe as a Navy way, I went around the country with another woman who had a little girl. She was an officer's wife and I was an enlisted man's wife. But we traveled together overland in her car. And every time we went to a new town on our travels from one port to another, she always knew where the hotels were because she was oriented to housing. And by the time we got the hotel, I always knew where 3 restaurants were. There's a Chinese one there, there's a Mexican over there, there's a Spanish one over there. This one looks best. She hadn't even noticed the restaurants because I was so food oriented because I grew up with worrying about food. I always had that covered. She was so worried about a good place for her and the kid to sleep, she found the housing. We were a good team in that way. But notice if you're hardwired to only think of food, that may not be the healthiest thing, or it might. No judgment. Okay, now I've got this red thing. This is like one of those reflectors. Danger, danger, danger. Some of us who've been traumatized or been raped or abused or hit hard may have a red reflector on. Danger, danger, help, 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 help. Wide open trauma. If you have wide open trauma and it's running your show in the background, you might want to consider getting some cranial sacral therapy, which I've mentioned in another video. You might want to do some EMDR where they do this. You watch with your eyes and people are able to clear their old trauma from that. Rolfing, Reiki. There's so many tools nowadays. Or just more counseling. But if you're hardwired to only be terrified, pay attention. This is not the best thing to run your life, to worry about anxiety every second. All right. Here's prickly. This is a little prickly thing. It's actually a plant. But sometimes people will say sharp things to you, or your only response to others is a sharp response. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? I read a book that says that sarcasm is dirty fighting. Silent treatment is dirty fighting. I think the book is How to Fight Fair in Love and War or something like that. I read it many, many years ago. But if you're doing the silent treatment or getting it, or if the person you're with is constantly being sarcastic, you guys might make a truce and say, we're not going to use sarcasm in our relationship. We're going to talk clean to each other. All right, this is a drill. Sometimes you just feel like you're getting screwed over. Or people only want to talk to you about sexual things. The only value they see in you is a sexual partner. That can be painful too. And then I've got some plastic on here. Bubblehead. Oh, they're a bimbo. They don't know anything. Judgment hurts. Let's not be cruel to each other. Some people are very aware of of nature. This is like recyclable paper. A lot of Native Americans are very, very concerned about saving our planet. More of us should be concerned. I am old enough to see a dramatic uptick in wildfires, storms, tornadoes, even earthquakes. Our planet is suffering. Let's do more than we've done in the past to get back to nature and to protect the planet we've got. All right, I think those are the main things. Oh, here's a chain. Sometimes people just want to control you and keep you under their lock and key. I would not want to be married in a situation where I feel that other person is my jailer, or I wouldn't want someone with me if they felt I was their jailer. We want to have the freedom to come and go. If there's a feeling of, I don't have freedom to come and go, I don't have freedom to make my own choice, you may be in a dangerous situation. You may be needing that book, Getting Free, which I mentioned in yesterday's topic. It's not okay to be intimidated and terrified at home. And then the last thing I've got the tape over the mouth. Stifle yourself, Edith. Any of you have seen all of the family, Archie Bunker was always putting Edith down. Stifle yourself, Edith. A lot of women are stifled by dominant men. This can happen in the boardroom. It can happen in the home. It can happen in the bedroom. It can also happen it isn't just men to women. People can stifle their children. Children should be seen and not heard. All of those things are brain dirting in my view. That is not, if you've been brain dirted, in all these different ways, begin to question it. Begin to think about it. Wait a minute. Have I accepted this as my normal? Maybe I need to reconsider that. And then I've got this little glittery gold stuff. All that glitters is not gold. Maybe nobody needs gold toilets or gold wallpaper, or, maybe something handmade with love has more value than the shiny, sparkly stuff. Whether people get, plastic surgery and that's the only way they feel beautiful, if it's phony and shiny, pay attention. The fork. I gotta have more food. I gotta have more food. I gotta have more food. Maybe it's time to take the fork out. Take the fork out. Turkey's done. Here, I'm gonna see if I can get it out without destroying everything. I can't get it out. That's all right. As you can see, this little thing has been very brain dirted. Very brain dirted. And things have been drilled into their head. Do it my way. Believe the church. Believe the government. Believe whatever. I'm not trying to be an anarchist, but don't automatically accept it just because somebody told you it was the only way it could be done. Innovators happen because they question things, because they come outside the box, because they think, where did I get this belief? There's a really funny story, and you may have heard this before, about this woman that every time she baked her, this is an old story, but maybe you haven't heard it. Every time she baked her ham, she would cut it in half and put it in 2 pans and stick it in the oven. Year after year, she'd cut it in half, stick it in 2 pans, and put it in the oven. So one day, her grandmother was around, and she says, I always cut this ham in half and put it in the oven. And I always saw you do that too. Well, why did you do that? What's the story? She says, I just didn't have a pan big enough. But nobody ever questioned it. Are there any beliefs about yourself that need to be reevaluated? Do you believe you're a piece of junk? Do you believe you don't deserve freedom? Do you believe you can't speak up? Do you believe you don't deserve to be educated? Do you believe that you are not safe to get a job or make your own money or